Chicago. Now, the first large summer home built out here on the lake was built on the site of that black and tan home there in 1870 for Sheldon Sturgis. He and his brothers were business partners and each had summer homes in the area. The original main mansion was torn down just over a decade ago, with this new home being built in its place, known as Manor. In 1926, there are about 80 homes in the around. One unique thing to note about the Geneva Manor subdivision here is that all the architectural styles are different. This is mandated by subdivision ordinance. Now, the manor here is built on 37 acres of the Levi's Lighter estate, better known as Linden Lodge. Now, throughout the tour today, you are going to notice a lot of long white piers out here around the lake. If you take a look over there at pier number 20, you'll see that it's actually painted a light tan color. There is no rule or regulation as to the color of your piers here on the lake. Most paint them white to keep the tradition or to keep it cooler under your feet in the summertime. So I'm not exactly sure why pier 20 is that way. But the handsome Victorian boathouse coming up here on the shoreline is one of the few remaining structures from the estate known as Slough Harbor. Slough Harbor was built in 1881 for George and Mary Sturgis, who you'll recall donated the first library and library park. They built a large French chateau home here containing enough bedrooms for their 9 children with 20 main rooms. The next group of homes is the Geneva Bay Estates. It's built on the former site of a beautiful home known as the Butternuts. Now, the Butternuts was built in 1874 by Nathaniel Kellogg Fairbank, president of the N.K. Fairbank Company, Chicago's leading manufacturer of soap. Now, the Fairbank Up until now, you've had to use your imagination to picture what some of these homes and estates may have looked like. However, for the next few miles of shoreline here, most of the properties remain relatively intact and unchanged from when they were built in the heyday of our Newport of the West period. This is in reference to Newport, Rhode Island, the famous summer resort. They are relatively interesting as they either are currently or were at one point all a part of the Wrigley estate. Under William and P.K. Wrigley, the family amassed vast business, sports, and real estate holdings. At the time of his passing in 1977, the family's interests included the Wrigley Chewing Gum Company, the Chicago Cubs, the Wrigley Building in downtown Chicago, real estate holdings in downtown Phoenix, Arizona, and most of Catalina Island. Now, the first home here on the Wrigley complex is going to be the white home with the green trim. It's known as North Woodside. It's constructed in 1876 for General Henry Strong, president of the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad. Now, in later years, North Woodside was owned by Olaf Nelson T. Vander, who was credited with numerous inventions. One of his, which proved to be quite successful, was the sanitary milk bottle cap, as the cardboard disc stamped atop of glass. Up ahead here, this next part of the estate is called Hillcroft. It began in the 1880s as a small hunting lodge for architect Henry Lord Gay, and it was originally called Gay Inn. From 1927 until 1966, Hillcroft, as it was renamed, served as P.K. Wrigley's summer residence and later as his guest house. The original main mansion was torn down and replaced with this 11,000 square foot home in the Gables. The original home, called Blythe Body, dates back to 1892. It was built by J.M. Gordon, who sold that property to multi-millionaire sportsman C.K.G. Billings for $35,000. This home was then purchased by the Wrigley family and rebuilt in 1966, and at that time it was considered state-of-the-art. And everything from that flagpole on the outside to the drapery on the inside was actually controlled electronic. Now, you may be thinking that the Wrigleys are downsizing with this more modest home here next door, but this is their pool and spa house. And that barn-shaped building there with the gabled roofing is the Wrigley Boathouse. It's a part of the original Green Gables estate, and it's the winter quarters for the Wrigley Boat Fleet. Right next door there is the newest home of the trustee and treasurer of the University of Chicago, as well as a founder of the Art Institute in Chicago. Charles and his wife Frances built a rambling three-story home here with a definite English country influence. But following his death, that property eventually landed under the stewardship of the University of Chicago for scientific study, before then falling victim to subdivision and sale. Then in 1957, it was sold to Clarence Mitchell. He had the top two floors of that home removed, destroyed much of the sanctuary area surrounding the home, and modernized it to its present one-story ranch style, which we see today. Now, this did upset the Wrigleys. They took a lot of pride in that sanctuary area of the home. So Mr. Wrigley marched right across that front lawn there one day, checkbook in hand, and bumped that home right back into the Wrigley complex. Somewhere in that tree line there does vacant property. Now, if you have a phone or a camera, I would highly recommend taking it out, as many do consider this next home to be the most beautiful here on the lake. It was known as Wadsworth Hall. It was constructed in 1902 for Norman W. Harris of the Harris Trust and Savings Bank in Chicago, today BMO Harris. After that, it was sold to his son-in-law, Daniel F. Peterkin Jr., president of the Morton Salt Company, and it remained in that family for 80 years before being sold to investment advisor Richard Driehaus. He had this property meticulously restored, and as you can see, it is truly a fine example of historic preservation. Now, unfortunately and unexpectedly, Mr. Driehaus passed away in March of 2021. Safety Patrol. Water Safety Patrol is responsible for keeping our lake out here so safe during the summer. And this next home here, nestled back among the trees, is a part of the home house in the woods, completed by Mr. A.C. Bartlett, a wholesale hardware distributor and one of the founders of what is now True Value. Because the contractor, Richard Suter, was busy building the other large Swift and Harris homes at the same time, special plans were made to complete this home on schedule. Mr. Suter went to Delavan, Wisconsin, just 10 miles away, where he borrowed a three-ring circus tent from P.T. Barnum, who actually kept his